Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, back with another Scrolls replay, where today we have a game against the ever-famous Blinky and his opponent jessesmit, or jessesmit. We'll just call you Jesse. But this is a replay of a ranked match. Both of these players are really high up there in the top 300 at least. I know Blinky's hovered around the top 5. But this match is going to feature, let's see here, it looks like we have Blinky is doing his growth order draw, from the looks of it. And Jesse, at the very least, has a growth deck. So let's see how this develops. Blinky up front, just doing his quick sack, going for resources, probably is going to just try and start ramping up first. So just the early game as we go through here. We have at least, it could be 2 growth order decks, it could Jesse just be a growth deck, but we get the Stone Pack Memorial out first, so Blinky's tipped his hand just a little bit. Keep in mind that I'm watching this replay blind. I don't know what happens here, but this is being viewed through the replay viewer in the Scrolls mod summoner, so if you want to check it out, the link for it's in the description. But right now it's looking like we have a straight up growth deck, and Blinky's got his first sister out. He has a fertile soil he can drop next turn, and jessesmit wisely decides to bane it just to get it off, because you do not want to you want to stop that engine from starting up as soon as you can every time. As you saw last game, what can happen with a growth order deck. But right now, Blinky is just more keen on getting cards out as much as possible. Meanwhile, Jesse's just been able to get out a Great Wolf with impunity. So we got a good bit of back and forth. Blinky sacking the Kinfolk Brave and putting out the Veteran just to try and do some damage early. And it is entirely possible that he could fertile soil that Veteran next turn. Just looking at his hand, but unfortunately that's not going to happen, because the Mangy Wolf there, once again one of my favorite combos, not only did it buff the Great Wolf, but it also let him drop his cooldown 1, because it's probably the best part of the Mangy Wolf, so that fertile soil for Blinky, now useless. But he has a Kabonk that he can draw cards with. He has 2 fertile soils, so not much to do there other than sack. And there's the Quake, so board clear. Let's reset. Fortunately, Jesse does have some cards. Actually, Jesse has more cards than Blinky to follow up with. But pretty much all he's going to do is the fertile soil, and he can put down a Brave. He can put down a few creatures here. We have a Summons for a Stone Pack Memorial and a Great Wolf. See, and for the growth order deck, if you aren't familiar with the strategy, you're not so concerned about getting your creatures on the board. You just want to try and push off other things as much as possible. And the Mangy Wolves, Jesse's hitting at just the right time, because it's keeping Blinky from possibly getting rid of cards or putting Divine Mark on a cards. But he's got a Pother as well, or Pother. I'm not sure how people want to pronounce that, but that's another card that growth order decks like to use, which is just move a unit to adjacent tile, draw 1 scroll. Very useful, kind of like a Rumble for growth, except it's focused on 1 card, and you get even more card draw. So Blinky, at least from what I've seen from his strategy before, isn't so concerned. You can take down 2 of his idols, but it's that 3rd one that he'll defend to his heart's content. But Jesse, because he or she's growth, I'm going to say she because of the avatar there, because Jesse's growth got fertile soil as well, so she's not totally behind in the card draw. Right now there's a hasted unit from Blinky, and he's going to get Divine Marked as well. So if Jesse decides to kill him, or is able to kill him by buffing him, then Blinky's just going to get more cards. And it looks like Jesse would just rather fight the card draw, see if he or she can keep up with it, and get out more cards. Because Monogrowth actually does have a decent matchup against the Growth Order, but with that Quake there, Blinky's now hit 2. It's going to be interesting to see how Jesse recovers, because she's managed to do some idle damage. But I can't really say who's ahead right now. But the Druid Burial Ground's going to be nice if it can get its heal off next turn. It may or may not save somebody. So there's the Decimation. Didn't see that pop in the hand just in time, but that's one way to get rid of a 1 health unit. And now we have another Quake for Blinky. So that's just going to well, it's not going to take out because of the Burial Ground, but that Quake's going to be probably more useful for, especially with this other Mangy Wolf, and especially with this Veteran out. That Quake's going to do some damage. It's not going to kill anything on the board. But there we go. There is a Pother, which moves a random unit. Structures count as units. And there's the Quake to at least soften everything up. So right now, Jesse has a lot of stuff on the board, but it's really a matter of, can that stuff on the board survive? And I'd be very curious to see what Jesse's hand looks like. We got Druid Burial Grounds for more healing. So at the beginning of your turn, the Druid Burial Ground heals adjacent units, so that's why those heals didn't go through before. And a Kabonk on the Great Wolf. And Blinky's going to be able to start to get some stuff out here, which is kind of the idea of this deck. Not totally killing everybody, but doing enough. And the Decimation isn't going to take out anything straight away, except for possibly that Memorial. So unfortunately for Jesse, sitting on 9 growth and 2 cards. And this is where Blinky is suddenly sitting on 7 growth, 4 order, and a lot of things he can do. He could try and decimate and take out a unit there. He decides to Divine Mark our friend the Veteran. He puts out another Sister of the Fox, and suddenly he has a lot of order cards, and he's just moving around that Druid Burial Ground. That was kind of lucky, because that could have randomly moved back to where it was before. But that card draw helped him get another Veteran out, so suddenly he has more on the board. It's going to be interesting to see how Jesse can react. A Rallying certainly a good start there, and there's another Kinfolk Veteran. So going to do as much damage as he can, so that rally was clutch and came at the right time. But because of the Divine Mark, both of those units, both of those veterans are going to be going back into the cards. So more killing, another Divine Mark, which is really useful on those veterans because they are so devastating as hasted units if you can just keep bringing them out again and again and again and again. But we're at round 16. Like I said before, the Growth Order deck is one that is a turn 20 deck, and even though Blinky doesn't have as much mana as I've seen these decks have, he's still in a very good position, staying in control of what's going on. But Jesse able to get a ton of stuff out, and able to get plenty of cards with the Fertile Soil, with the card draw, with the Vetter. So it's going to be interesting to see. Okay, so she's going to lose, Jesse's going to lose all creatures. And in fact, he could push back the Vetter, but that's probably better saved for another card, especially when the Vetter's giving 1 energy. It's not always needed. And there's the Quake. And a Veteran there to take it out. So just like that, Blinky, who had a ton of board control too, well, he's not the only one with Quakes in his hand. And now it's just going to be a matter of he Kabonks, he draws the Veteran, and so we're just really at a big back and forth. With that Divine Mark on the Veteran every time. It's just the unit that just won't go away. So how's Jesse going to pull this one off? There's the Veteran as well. And there's a Great Wolf. So it looks like he doesn't have the cards to kill that guy this turn, but who knows exactly what's going to happen here. That Quake could prove devastating for the Burial Grounds, but he has 2 Quakes. Quakes on consecutive turns, if you have plenty of follow-up, are very, very hard to recover from. But this is where Blinky's card advantage is doing him more favors, because now he can put out some more Memorials. And let me just double check. I think he put a Hermitage on that one as well. Yes, or Heritage, excuse me. So when that little 1 health thing dies, he gets 2 scrolls. So what Jesse's going to have to start figuring out is, is it better to go straight for the idols, or is it better to go for the other things that he can tuck units behind? But unfortunately right now, Jesse just doesn't have the cards that Blinky has. And right now Blinky's got a lot of stuff he can play with. So there's 1 Quake. Notice he's saving his Veteran and stuff for later. And that Heritage with the Quake actually gives Blinky cards anyway. So now it's just going to be a matter of, can he actually get, okay, Jesse did very good, got actually a Fertile Soil, 2 Fertile Soils. So that is how Growth does card draw. So very nice to see that. Just a really, really good back and forth in this game. Is another Quake coming out from Blinky. I'd hate to be beside this battle if these things happen in real life. Just all these earthquakes, all this crap floating around. But there's another card draw. There's so many Kinfolk Braves, Ragged Wolves. Blinky's kind of in a position where he can start to do some damage here, but Jesse is just not going away and now has so many cards. And there we go, Jesse's starting to go for the idol, starting to gun for him, and getting so much on the board. So quite a turnaround. And Jesse takes out one idol, just needs two more. And now it's going to be a matter of what can Blinky do to take care of this stuff. Maybe he could have done decimation and killed the Great Wolf before, but it looks like he doesn't need to. There he is, being smarter than me as one of the top ranked players, because that veteran and that wolf are going to take out both of those, and the decimation up top. And a pushback on one of the units, so just like that, from all these creatures on the board to nothing on the board, but Jesse still has one idol down, so still in the game, and there's the Quake from the other end and the veteran follow-up. So just a ridiculous match. We're only at turn 22. This could go on for quite some time. So with the veteran out for Blinky, does he fertile soil it? Probably. There we go. So how many card draws from that? Another that Kinfolk Brave was the one he just put down before. And he can just keep going. So the move around for the veteran, more things to draw, more card draw, more card draw. Now has so many resources, gets to Kabonk again and draw another card. Can put a Divine Mark down as well. Could actually Divine Mark the sister and then Fertile Soil and then play the sister again. Let's see here. Does Jesse have something up her sleeve or his sleeve? Jesse is an androgynous name. I don't know what to call you. There's the rally. So there goes that Fertile Soil attempt, and there goes some idle damage. In fact, I assume Jesse wanted to move that up just to try and have a unit to support the Great Wolf. So there's a pushback, getting units off the board again. So Blinky's going to take out that veteran, and he's going to go ahead and Fertile Soil his favorite Kinfolk Brave, and there is the Divine Mark again on this guy. So he's just going to keep coming back. It's the zombie Kinfolk veteran, you could say. See our Sister of the Fox down. Brother of the Wolf, so Jesse's starting to try and spread the board. Just going back and forth. And I mean, there's no Thunder Surges in Blinky's hand, but it is good to put pressure on multiple areas of the board. Right now, we have Pothers and Kabonks all around. The pushback on the Brother of the Wolf. And then here comes the Train Pain, or whatever you want to call it, as that Great Wolf is going to go down. And more sisters get drawn. I mean, right now, this could be where Blinky starts to take control of the game. So, I don't know. Did he just move that unit back and forth? I'm not exactly sure how or why that worked that way. So it almost seemed like he was able to undo that move. That was bizarre, but could just be a display error with this. So there we go. Jesse, back to 13 growth, 7 cards. It's rare by round 25 to see somebody who has more cards here, but there we go. God Hand. Da-na-na-na-na, catchphrase. And the God Hand, unfortunately, pushes back the Great Wolf. But maybe it's better that way. So Blinky is going to be able to get more units out here, take out the sister. He has a lot he can play with. He actually has a God Hand in his pocket now, so if he gets a lot of stuff out, he can do a lot of damage in a hurry. It's tempting. Very, very tempting. So he could play the summons as well, get another Woodland Memorial. So he has so many options. And this is where the draw deck shines, but there's a Quake to take away all of those options. So Jesse in the clutch, getting another Quake out. So that's one way to do it. Blinky can play all these cards, save the God Hand for next turn, and possibly end the game. And Jesse just Quakes him right back. Perfect timing there. But of course, this veteran's going to be able to take out the wolf. We've seen this dance before. And what it boils down to is, are we going to get a Fertile Soil on that guy this turn? Yes, we are. There's a Divine Mark as well. There's a Sister of the Fox. And now Blinky has a Quake in his pocket. I imagine this game ran a very long time if we weren't looking at it through the replay engine. But Jesse doing a little bit of card draw of his own or her own, and there's a rally and a Crimson Bull, so there's your poor man's God Hand, and suddenly 2 idols are almost down. With that Quake that really cleared the board. And oh my god, Blinky has enough Quakes to do whatever the hell he wants. Doesn't even need that many. He could probably sacrifice 1 for scrolls and be just fine, but there we go. It's just back and forth, back and forth. And once again, we have a Divine Mark on the Kinfolk Veteran. So even if it goes, it stays. And there's a Jarl, or Jarl as I've been calling it all this time to myself. And Jesse's just going to go ahead and try and fight the top row and the bottom row. And there's the quick decimation. Does Blinky have what it takes to try and take this stuff out? He can take down the Wolf Brother. And that Jarl by himself is not super strong. Some people swear by him. I'm not huge on him, but he's not terrible, especially if you can get a lot of other creatures out. But right now he's functioning a lot more as a very expensive pretty wall that sometimes attacks. So there's the Kinfolk Vet. And there's a God Hand as well. So right now that is more damage, but not enough to take out the idol. If only because the Veteran was whisked away by the Divine Mark. That was just enough. And as we see now, here comes the Veteran again. And here comes the God Hand right back at him, so there goes the Jarl. Beefiest Sister of the Fox ever this week. So we're up to round 30. Jesse still holding out, especially with the Quake in hand, especially with the Kinfolk Veteran. And especially with the Kinfolk Brave as well. So just so many ways to try and fight this. And Blinky, he has 2 Quakes. He's sitting on them. So we got 1 Quake there. I don't think he's going to want a double Quake when he can just Ragged Wolf and Kabonk, which it looks like that's what he's doing. And he's got the Sister of the Fox, and he's got a Heritage. He could Heritage Divine Mark and Fertile Soul that eventually, if he gets another Fertile Soul. I'm very curious to see just how many cards Blinky has drawn throughout this. And suddenly we're getting a little bit more idle damage. But Jesse is pushing hard. Pushing as hard as Jesse can. And there's the rally, so there goes the second idol. So just 1 more to go for Jesse. Blinky has got to hold on. But fortunately for Blinky, those last 3 idols are next to each other, so they're going to be easier to defend. He doesn't have to worry about defending his bottom 2 lanes. And that decimation is going to do more idle damage. By late in the game, if you can get enough decimations, you can win the game outright just with direct damage to idols. But there is more enchants going around. There is a Kinfolk Brave with Divine Mark, which is very effective. And there's a Sister of the Fox for Jesse, who is starting to get card starved. And what enchant do you have on you? You have, actually this one has Heritage and Poison, so it's going to get 2 cards when it dies. So there is Blinky back with more cards. Always things that you can do. So many veterans, so much mana. So many things to play here at the end of the game. And notice he's going for the summons first, just trying to draw scrolls. Trying to draw things. Divine Mark on the Veteran again. There is a Kinfolk Brave that was going to come back this whole time. And there is another Memorial as well. So he has a pushback for whatever big nasty Jesse decides to put out. But that big nasty's probably not a Sister of the Fox, where once again, Jesse just needs cards. And there's a rally instead, so... Oh, 2 health left on that idol. 2 health. Wow. So Jesse is just staying persistent, but Blinky's getting pushbacks at just the right time here. And I mean, he might as well just save those for whenever the big things come out, because he can deal with the tiny units with his veterans. So he's just going to keep getting cards, and he can start to try and do some damage here, perhaps. He can save the Ragged Wolf for maybe a more direct damage scenario, but he's just going to go ahead and put it out now and do the 3 idle damage. And there's another Quake for Blinky. So if Jesse's going to take out that last idol, he's going to have to do it in a huge attack. Huge attack, or some kind of quake to take out everything, but that's not what we're seeing here right now. So there's a Great Wolf, and there's another rally. That's not going to be enough to take out everybody, though. But it's those kind of attacks you just need to stay persistent to keep up the pressure. And that Pother worked perfectly. Perfectly, because now he can take out the Great Wolf by God Handing. He can actually clear the board by God Handing. Which that looks like that's what he's going to do. Save the fertile soil. Save the pushbacks for when you need to remove units. And suddenly it's Blinky who's able to do idle damage, as Jesse's just whittling away. And this is where I've run into this with growth too, and it probably really hurts to sacrifice the Great Wolf, but not a lot you can do there. But I've run into this with growth too. If you just focus one side of the board, it's sometimes really hard to crack the other side because you can just fill it with units. So all kinds of kabonks that he can't use. He can just play in chance. This is where Blinky has more riches than he knows what to do with. And I guess what Jesse really needs right now is yet another quake. And Blinky, anticipating that, is moving a veteran up here. And it's possible he can take out 2 idols in a turn. So there's the quake. It's that good sort of spider sense by Blinky there. And Jesse plays a veteran, Jesse plays a brave. And Blinky's going to be able to answer this, but once again he doesn't have everything on the board like maybe he did before. So there's the kabonk. And nothing really to do with the God Hand. He can drop the veteran and the brave and maybe do it next turn. So there we go. Jesse says ridiculous game, which is true. This game is nuts. I mean, it's been anybody's for a long time. But if... And once again, we have some weird movements back and forth. I assume that was a Pother there that caused him to move. But suddenly, Blinky can win next turn. Or he should be able to, if he can get the right creatures out. But there's another quake. There's another veteran. Jesse's going to have to be conscious of the fact that she has a 4 health idol on the bottom of her board. And right now he can win with a Decimation and a Sister of the Fox and God Hand. So that looks like this is it. So an epic, I hate throwing that term around, but a really, really good game between Blinky and Jesse. But in the end, Blinky was just able to persevere, get more resources, and Jesse just couldn't crack through that last 2 damage. But overall, great game, very well played by both players. And it's just a good example of how the Growth Order deck works very well, even if you don't have a no-die there to ramp your resources up. But this is Way to Fail with another replay for Scrolls. If you have your own replay you want to send, please feel free to do so at w2freplays@gmail.com. I hope you all enjoyed this game, and I will see you all next time.